Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome in, Wolves fans, to the Daily Wolves podcast. It is me, Chris, and with me today is Nathan. Hey, Nathan.
Hello everyone. Hello, Chris. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday,
nice
indeed.
and early.
Yeah, it's we've been a little bit quiet this week. It's been super busy for everyone here at Daily Wolves. So apologies for not coming to you as quickly as we would like post Arsenal. But then again, I think we were just trying to forget about the whole thing, to be honest, Nathan.
Yeah. Another loss hangover for us at Daily Wolves, and trying to sober back up after all these defeats is a difficult task, but we're just about getting there. Hopefully getting back to some more regularity with let's hope a good result against Villa at the weekend. But I know we've got a lot of other things we want to cover before we get to that Villa game. And whilst I say that, Chris's cat is currently fighting him.
Yeah, it's typical.
Off the mic.
Yeah, but while we're at it, the Arsenal, let's go back, rewind time a few days to the weekend's game against Arsenal. Going into it, I'm sure, I don't know about you, I was expecting a loss. Obviously, we're going to talk about hindsight in a minute, but I wasn't expecting anything from it going into the game. I think I even said it in my crossover episode that I was expecting a defeat.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after the poor performances against Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. Just we talk about the amount of goals conceded, but the attitude, and it just all stank, didn't it? And you just think, right, here we go again, expecting another sort of 3-4 goal beating. But I actually thought that we put up a more solid performance than in the games against Forest and Chelsea, and we had a little bit more to show for ourselves. I don't want to say we can come out of it proud. Ultimately, we've still lost, and that's put us down into the bottom three. But I do think we performed slightly better against a team that had some real quality with regards to individual quality. I think Declan Rice was absolutely fantastic, and Saliba at the back was brilliant as well. And there's those individual players that we just don't have that quality to match. And I think we battled with them quite well. But considering they were down to 10 men for a large period of the game, we weren't able to capitalise enough. And it's back to the same old story of we can't take our chances. I think we created a lot against Forest as well, created enough against Chelsea to sort of maybe get a little bit more. But again, just not putting away our chances, and then we get punished because we are leaky.
Yeah, the thing that bugs me most about the game, and I'm sure it does for most people, like you say, we expected nothing really going into it, given the form of the last few games. But then that sending off. They, to be honest, at 11 versus 11, they looked obviously strong, but we'd been fairly steady. Like, we were in the game, and then it's the sending off. I mean, we can get into the minutiae of that, because I think there's been a weird reaction to that on social media and press and celebrities and all sorts on that one. But at that point, 11 versus 10, after sending off, you suddenly get that glimmer of hope that we've got an opportunity to get something from this, more than we way more than we had at the start of the game. It's still a great team, still with 10 men, going to be a great team. But that little lift of come on, we can at least get the points, and maybe we go and push on and get all three. And the most disappointing thing for me is we just looked like we didn't go for it. And then second half, fair enough that it wasn't that long till half time at that point. But then the second half, the first 10-15 minutes, Arsenal came out. They looked like they had an extra man. We just couldn't get out of the box. And yet we were the one with the extra numbers. And I'm like, what is going on? This can't be the team talk.
Honestly, we don't have a second gear. Against Chelsea, you nick an equalising goal away from home just before half time. You think, right, okay, that's something. That's a reset. Let's see if you can raise it in the second half. And there was no reaction. And then again against Arsenal, if the opposition team goes down to 10 men after obviously showing their quality with 11, if they go down to 10 men, you think, right, let's have it then. We're at home. Bit of momentum here. We can keep a bit of possession, or can we? But we've genuinely got that we coast through games at times where we're just in that first gear and we just literally cannot at any point. It doesn't feel like when you're watching at any point we can inject a 15-20 minute spell where we can dominate teams. And I feel like we used to have that, and we just don't have that anymore, where, okay, we'll have a 5 minute spell, but we need to, when Arsenal are down to 10, you have to have periods where you are bombarding their box. And it just never felt like Arsenal were really in trouble.
No.
And that's
we didn't.
I think that's the thing that's just disappointing, that we can't say that we didn't force their keeper into many saves at all. And that's the thing that's so frustrating.
Yeah, it just felt like we didn't threaten them at all. I know there was the odd chance here and there scattered through the game, but it didn't. We never felt like we were pushing on. It looked like we were happy to still try and settle for a point at 11v10 when it was a great opportunity for the team to get some unexpected bonus points out of it. When we're in a tough situation where we need them. That was an opportunity to really give it a go. And the crowd would have been, the crowd were up for it after that red card. There was a brief period where that excitement of the red card and come on. And if we'd have gone for it, crowd get behind them and push on. And it just never happened. And I think the other thing for me as well was there's been a couple of occasions where I've questioned things, but obviously we've had the manager bounce. But that game more than ever, there was concerns for me over the fact that at 11 versus 10, when it's not working early second half, there was no changes. You've got João Gomez already on a yellow, and he's capable of getting another one, and he's going to get stuck in because it's 2 against 3 in that midfield. And it just looked like he was on edge. You could tell he was walking on eggshells the whole game. Yeah. And yet the subs weren't until like the 87th minute we saw a flurry of changes, which is too late. To do anything. Like I felt like I wanted him to make a change of some kind, whether it's tactical, whether it's players earlier in the game, to try and just re-energize things, but it felt like there was nothing.
Yeah, there's a couple of bits there. I think the João Gomez one, it's a difficult call, but if you're a manager and João Gomez on a yellow, you probably don't hook him anyway. I do know that he's obviously susceptible to go flying into challenges, and I actually think that his second yellow could have easily been a straight red, especially considering Arsenal straight red in the first half. But yeah, just again, there doesn't seem to be a fallback plan, and I don't know how much we can always put on Pereira or the manager in charge here. I think some of it has to come down to the players going, right, let's just go for it. Let's have a little bit of fight about it. And very few, again, not many positives that we can actually come out of the game with. Not many things where we can say, well, we absolutely threw the kitchen sink at them and they just managed to hold on and got a 1-0 win. That wasn't the type of game. I know the scoreline might suggest it was, but it wasn't. It wasn't like Arsenal have just done a fantastic away day, classic away day job sort of thing. That wasn't the case. And that, I think, as a team playing at home, that's in the situation that we're in at the minute, we have to be scrappy and we have to be throwing kitchen sinks at people when they come to our gaff and they score, and when they're down to 10 men as well.
Yeah, because even late in the game, like 5-10 minutes to go, again, we've seen it earlier in the season at 11 versus 11, but 11 versus 10, 1-0 down, and we were just passing it around at the back again, and there was no oomph, there was no emphasis to just get the ball up the pitch when the clock is ticking, and it's like, come on, just at that point, chuck Agger up there and let him cause some mayhem with some long balls and let him try and head it, cause some mayhem.
He was our best player against Arsenal, in my opinion.
He was my man of the match.
Head and shoulders above the rest of the Wolves players, and I think he's been very, very solid and can hold his head fairly high with regards to his performances so far. But again, the frustration out of that is that he's been good since coming in, but where's the lift in the players around him? Where's the same intensity with the players around him? He is bullying strikers at the minute. Like, genuinely, he's shrugging them off like they're nothing. It literally looks like he's playing with kids at times.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating that we don't see, I don't know. I know it's everyone's physical attributes are different, but just a bit more of that around the pitch. And obviously not the senseless stuff like João Gomez is doing. And I know he kind of reacted straight away. He knew straight away what he'd done, knew it was a yellow straight off, but just stupid. It's just, like head loss. And yet again, we're not managing to control the emotions that we have in the right situations. Okay, the opposition's down to 10 men. What are we doing? Are we still doing this nervous ball around the back? Why should we? That's when you try something, in the final third. You see what can happen. And I don't know, I feel like maybe a Tommy Dawes substitution was the thing in hindsight. Obviously, it's easy for us to say now. I don't know what the answer was at that time because, it was poor. But ultimately, we conceded 3 in the previous 2 games. So maybe in Vitor Pereira's mind was just, right, okay, let's try and build a bit of confidence throughout the game. But then you get pegged back a goal and all of a sudden you're lost again. So tricky.
Yeah. And plus, because it wasn't just the fact they were down to 10 men, when obviously Saka is out for a while, was out injured, Odegaard not in. So even before the 10 men, it was they're still a great team, but 2 of their massive stars are not in the team. So already there was a element of possibility there. And so it just feels like an opportunity missed more than anything. I think that's the most frustrating thing about this week is it feels like an opportunity missed when we were expecting so little, and now it feels like, oh gosh, that was a complete waste.
Massively. And I keep using the word scrapping, but we need to be scrapping for points. And look, would we have been disappointed with a 0-0 draw? Probably, considering they were down to 10 men for that long. But you need points, and we need to start adding them to the board and fast. And it's just, at the moment, it's not been good enough. And let's hope that a local derby at home again can maybe be the sort of energy that the team need.
Yeah. We'll get to obviously the coming fixture. I just want to echo your sentiments on Aga before we move on. I thought Agbadou was just, he was the silver lining of the whole day. He was outstanding. He was getting like standing ovations of his own. For some of his tackles, he was getting all the cheers because, like you say, he was just shrugging people off. He looked strong. He looked confident. For a team, I know they're missing some players, as we mentioned, but for a team that have been so good at set pieces and we've been so bad at set pieces, we actually did okay defensively against set pieces for them. That wasn't really the issue. I know they had some poor corners because a few times they hit the first man, but Aga definitely adds to that confidence at the back, I think, and makes teams think a little bit more. Even just with him, I know we're hoping for more, but he's definitely a difference maker. And did you notice at the other end of the pitch when it was our corners, because it was an issue with Chelsea as well, that particularly at Chelsea, the opposing players look worried about him. Like he's got 2 or 3 people he's often got 2 or 3 people trying to shove him this way and that. Because he's huge, he's drawing attention, and it creates mayhem.
He's not shifting. He is not shifting. He is built like a brick wall. It's insane. Like I've not seen him live yet, but my God, I know you always, when watching on TV, you always think footballers are shorter than they actually are in real life. But he looks huge on TV as well. So insane stuff. But I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it might even be a case that we would need like a Totti Gomez back in that defensive lineup.
I can't wait for him to come back. I think,
I actually now am thinking that with the security and the cool head that Aga has, alongside Bueno, who is quite similar in possession, Totti might be all right. I think Totti always looked poor when he was around players that weren't as comfortable on the ball as well. And there was an over-reliance on him in a back 4 to be on the ball. Whereas in that back 3, where he might only have, 1 or 2 options to play, sort of one down the line or back inside to your centre half, keeping it simple, I think he might work quite well because he brings that aggressive defensive attitude that Doc doesn't have. What Doc does have is going forwards. But, at this moment in time, we need to stop shipping goals. So, can't believe I said that after everything I've said about Totti Gomez. But
no, I can't wait for Totti to return. We've got to a state where I think we need him. his best performances in a Wolves shirt have been in a back three, in that left of the back three. That's when he earned his Portugal call up, if you remember. Well, I think he was kind of either playing left wing back at that point and also left of the three. Either way, he's always when he's got the three at the back, he's much better on that left hand side. So I think he'll come back in at some point there. And then you've got a choice, really. Be interesting to see whether Pereira moves Aga to the right of the three and Doc drops out. And then it's like Totti, Bueno, and Aga, or the other option is put Aga in the middle and then someone else on the right. But I think he'll go to the right hand side.
Yeah, I think he'd be better on the right just because he's got that pace, and I actually quite like Bueno in that middle position. I can see him developing. Like I don't know why I see it, but I can just see his potential in the middle, and I think he's got the build for that middle position. Whereas out wide, if Bueno was coming up against wingers, I wouldn't feel too comfortable. Whereas I think Aga's got that in the pocket.
No, I think even in the middle, Bueno just needs to bulk up a little bit. He still feels a little bit like he's a bit too scrawny at times, and gets shoved off the ball a bit too easily. But with Totti on the left of him and Agbadu on the right, I mean, that's two much more athletic, tall, particularly strong, more physical characters to kind of give him that leeway to just guide a little bit and pick up the pieces. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Before we soldier on, let's just remind everyone that here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we did spend a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. All right, dudes. So obviously we're gonna, I think we'll move on because we've all languished in that game now for long enough. And I mean, we could cry until the cows come home, but we just need to focus on the future, I think. And so obviously we're coming up to the last few days of the transfer window. So far, the only in has been our man of the match, Aga, but there's been a lot of stuff going on, rumours in the last few days in terms of another centre back, recently a midfield as well. I mean, I can find the names but I'm sure you've got a couple to mention, Nathan.
Yeah. From what I've been reading, there's three bits of news. I'll rattle through them in order of what seems to be the most credible sources out there, and maybe you'll be able to fill in as well, Chris. The first bit, the back and forth that have been going on about Kevin Danso, centre half at Lens at the minute. I'm doing this off the top of my head, so if I get any of these wrong, do correct me. Apparently, Lens are wanting 25 million. The sticking point isn't with the player, it's with the club itself. Apparently, Wolves went in with 20 million and Lens said no. So the difficulty with that one is that Rennes, another club in France, are looking to also grab him, and apparently they are willing to match the 25 million that Lens want. So that's the main one that we've seen loads of news on. The other one that I saw was just that Wolves are looking to terminate Forbes's loan as another outgoing. And then the last one that I was reading on that wasn't the midfielder stuff, but the stuff about Cunha, just again that apparently Villa are also interested and preparing bids or whatever, but how much credibility with that I don't know.
Well, yeah, the stuff on Danso, there's been so much of that over the last few days. It seems like it's obviously credible. As you mentioned, Wolves have actually been back 2 or 3 times now and upped their valuation to try and match Lens's estimation of the player. Supposedly, Wolves have agreed personal terms with the player. Like they've spoken, but they haven't agreed with the club. And in the meantime, as you mentioned, Rennes are coming in and saying like, oh, well, we'll match the valuation of the player. So there's a chance we could get gazumped like we've been for previous players, which is, given the state of things and how much we desperately need the squad support and depth. I mean, it's just, they can't let that slip away to someone, a non-Premier League club of that stature. It just doesn't feel right.
It's not right at all. Not right at all.
There's also apparently talks ongoing with Dynamo Kiev over a move for a Ukraine defensive midfielder. I'm going to butcher the name, Volodymyr Brazko, if you've caught that one.
Yeah, briefly. But yeah.
So yeah, but that is a less certain at the moment. That's more recent in the last 24 hours as to whether or not that's going to go ahead. Now, we've heard Vitor Pereira in his discussions a lot in his post matches or pre matches, talking about how much he wants a kind of athletic midfielder, another person in that midfield option as a driving force, because it clearly seems that Doyle is going to be a bit part, based on the fact that he's hardly seen much game time really since Pereira came in, even less potentially than O'Neill.
And that athleticism is not exactly the first thing you think of when you watch Tommy Doyle. So
No.
It doesn't look like he's in favour at all, really. I think there's been a couple of times under Pereira where you think we need forward passes in this game. We need a little bit of those, line cutting passes and Tommy Doyle would be the guy you go to. But even in them situations, Pereira hasn't gone to him. So you do wonder.
Yeah. So it's interesting because that means that, the likes of Sheffield United apparently watching out for what's happening with Doyle's situation, because obviously if more midfielders do come in, that's just going to push him further down the pecking order.
Yeah.
But then again, if we're in the Championship next season, he will be perfect for the Championship. We can't let him go permanently. Fair enough. I don't want him to go in anyway because I think we need the depth. But if they brought in another midfielder and he goes further and further down the order, then I can see him being loaned out maybe to try and recoup some cash on wages. But I don't want him to go anywhere. I'd quite like to keep him. But next season he could be pivotal for us if we're in a different division.
I just hope people in charge at Wolves have learnt their lesson. This transfer window where we are overspending, and if we end up matching Lance's request of 25 million for Danso, it's an overspend from what it would have been in the summer. Probably the same for Agbadou. Now, I don't know what he was valued at in the summer, but he was obviously having a good season at Rounds before we went looking for him. So it's just, if they're going to go all crazy and try and, get rid of Tommy Doyle and get some money in for him and the Lamina situation, I just really hope they have people that are already in the door before they do that. Because we don't want another situation where we're short on players, and all we would need is João Gomez or Andre to get a bad injury and we would be completely screwed. So it really is important that they've learned their lesson and they're just planning ahead with that squad depth. And with all these rumours going round, I've just got this thought in the back of my mind where we'll be here in 2 weeks' time with Andre injured, Tommy Doyle out the door, and only one player brought in, and all of a sudden you're like, well, we're completely done here.
Yeah,
but let's not think negatively, as we always end up doing. Let's hope, because if Danso were to come in, I just hope, if I could just get Jeffrey on the line, say, put up the 25 million, mate. Shake your clammy hands with them Lance guys.
Mm-hmm.
Get Danso in, because then you look at our back three and you think, the strikers in the Premier are going to look at that and go, that's physical.
Mm-hmm.
Danso and Aga are quick. Bueno, yes, he can build a bit more muscle or whatever, but as a unit, that would seem a lot more frightening than a few weeks back where you look at the back three, you go, well, Doc, not really a centre-half. Probably can get the better of him in certain situations. Slow as anything, running through mud. If it's Dawson, even better, he's slower. If it's Bueno, he's not super strong. And then the only one that you'd be worried about is Aga. But there's two other centre-halves they can focus on. So I think Danso would be massive. But just put the money up and get him. We can't be losing out to Rennes.
No.
The only thing I know about Rennes is that the one where they've got Will Still as a manager, the ginger manager who speaks French and English. I think it's them. But
right,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's so many instances that, in relation to what you mentioned, one of the more recent I can think of is Hugo Bueno going out on loan and leaving us short in that back line again when we've had injuries, and so many injuries at the back where he could have helped cover spots. It's just been crazy. I will say as well, I know a couple of things we didn't touch on. One is obviously the striker situation, because obviously Jürgen Strand Larsen went off with the hamstring at the weekend. Now we haven't got depth at striker because the Huang came on and he's been played through the middle before, and undoubtedly I would imagine he's going to be played up front this weekend. As I say it, Nathan's shaking his head because there isn't an alternative number 9. So arguably they also need to go out and spend money. They should have already spent money long ago on a backup striker.
Oh, I mean, it was the 40 million they spent on Fabio Silva, which was fantastic investment in itself as well, wasn't it?
Who's scoring again? Who's scoring again?
He is scoring again. Yeah, so just recall him, stick him up top.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Whenever he goes abroad, he does the business.
Yeah, which is funny in itself. But either Guedes or Hwang up top, it just doesn't fill you with confidence. Either of them don't. And again, worrying planning. Like, where is that planning? Where is your just a backup forward? It doesn't have to be a world beater. It has to be someone who can fit the system that you have, who can run the lines you want them to run, who can maybe add something different to what Strand Larsen has. My thought is get someone who's rapid, as opposed to Strand Larsen, who would be more of your sort of target hold-up player. And there's rapid players. They're everywhere. I just don't know why we're not going to grab one who's
we bought
good
one
enough for the Premier League bench.
I know he's not a striker, but in terms of rapid, we got Forbes, but he's not good enough, so they're sending him back. But
yes, they're sending him packing again. I mean, it's a bit of a circus. I don't know. Matt Hobbs, if it's him making decisions, he's having a laugh. I don't know what he's up to.
I'm really not sure. Obviously, there's definitely, obviously he's a huge factor, but I do wonder how much his hands are tied. If Fosun just turned around to him, the chairman Jeff Shee turns around to him and said, "Look, here's 100 one summer, here's 100 million. Go and do whatever you want." And he could, I'd love to. I'd just be curious to see if he wasn't so restrained by all of this stuff, what he could do, because we've seen moments with the Nunes deal and Doyle in exchange and things like that where you're like, okay, he's got some wheeling and dealing, but but then all of this budgeting and spreading the cost and making money, I just wonder how much he's in control of that.
It would be so interesting to get a little bit more transparency on who does make the decisions and what the sort of board of people who make these, obviously the financial decisions, but also who's making the call on whether we're going to spend that extra 5 million on Danso. That's interesting, right? And it's just, I don't know, it'd be nice to have a bit of an idea. I don't know many examples of clubs that actually are transparent with this sort of thing, just because of, obviously covering their backs, but just be interesting.
And the reason I wonder it is because I'm just, again, playing a devil's advocate. I just have this vision of him one day going off to a different club after we've all slated him
and doing really well, to
do some really amazing deals, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this guy's amazing," because he's well respected, it seems, in within footballing circles. He's often linked to other roles, and I'm just there's something tells me maybe if the shackles were off, maybe he wouldn't be getting the flack like he does.
Maybe not.
Anyway.
But either way, we need another centre half. We need another midfielder. We need another striker. And with Forbes going, probably need another winger. So he's got a long shopping list.
He does. And I before we touch on Villa very briefly, I just want to say a couple of things that cross my mind. Is I want to see. I'm still gutted that Rodrigo Gomez didn't start, or at least come on earlier in the game at the weekend. I don't understand what he's done he's been the most exciting player of the last 3-4 weeks, and he's not doing it. And for me at the moment, as much as Aït-Nouri has offered things going forwards and has scored the odd goal, I would rather have Rodrigo Gomez at left wing back right now. I'm being honest.
He's shown everything that you want to see in that position. Yeah. And if someone's performing better than someone else in the Premier League, week in, week out, you play them week in, week out. It should be first name on the team sheet. It doesn't make any sense based on his performances. But again, are we seeing Pereira trying to really shoehorn people into the team? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It just bugs me because I feel like a lot of, if you look at recent weeks or all season long, so much has come from that side, in terms of crosses from other teams, in goals we've conceded or cuts inside. And I feel like Aït-Nouri is often just giving people so much space there because he's very kind of lackadaisical in the way he pushes out. and I just feel like with someone like Rodrigo Gomez, he'll just give you energy. At least he's going to give you 110% energy and a defensive capacity, and he bombs forward and he tracks back and it does anyway. That's just my side. Lastly, the red card. Sorry, I know we finished Arsenal, but something I wanted to touch on, right? Because the red card that Arsenal got. Okay, I wanted to come back on this because there's a couple of talking points. One, I just want to touch on and not just as a Wolves fan. I feel like this is just a footballing thing, right? Is it just me, or when they got the red card, pretty much the entire Arsenal team swarmed that referee? Did you notice? Like literally everyone. You think back to a season or two ago, and Lamina getting that red card, getting booked, and because he was supposedly like the third player that came to a ref. Where did that rule go, and what is going on? Because is it just me, or is it another thing of like the big four, big six, or whatever? He booked one person, and that entire team was there for minutes around him, not giving him a second to breathe.
The standards and the precedent that refs set is all off. There just needs to be the one word we always come back to is consistency. I'm sure you're about to mention it in the second point about the red card, but there needs to be consistency. If you're going to stand, it's so easy, especially that one with regards to discipline and swarming the ref, right? Anyone who comes into the ref's personal space and makes physical contact with the ref, yellow card. Make it as simple as that. So the ref never has to back off. There should never be a point in a football game where grown men are playing that a referee should be walking backwards, backing off as if he's about to get beaten up. That should never be the case. He should be able to stand his ground. You never see it in rugby, and they're way scarier than footballers.
I know, and they call the ref sir.
So, and there's a respect there, and there's a dialogue, simply because the players know where the rules are at. The refs are very clear on it, and they apply it week in, week out. I know it's a different game, but they're just able to have more control on it. And there's no respect for refs in the Prem. And it's ridiculous because Arsenal know they're going to get stuff out of it. And it's part of the game now where teams are told, and quite clearly told, to swarm refs. And players are getting smart and clued up on it by putting pressure on them. And it's just unacceptable. There needs to be a line. And that one is super easy. I'm sure we'll get onto the technicality of the red card, but that one's easy. If you get in the face of the ref, yellow card straight away. And if someone else does it, yellow card again. And you keep doing that until they stop doing it. Simple.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. That's been bugging me because I feel like not enough people are talking about that point. Aside, whatever people think of the call itself, I feel like the behavior of teams like that when they do it is just ridiculous, and it's not called out enough. And we can get onto the technicality by all means, but also since then, obviously, the ban has been overturned. They've appealed, and his ban has been removed. Can I just also argue that I'm pretty sure if it was not the likes of Arsenal, if that happened to Wolves and Wolves appealed, that would not be overturned. Call me tinted glasses, whatever you want to call me. I firmly believe if that's one of the lower half teams, that is not overturned.
It's just consistency. Again, the thing, it really grinds my gears. Right. If João Gomez's second yellow card is a yellow, if we're saying that's a yellow, then the Arsenal one's a yellow. If the Arsenal one's a red, then the João Gomez second yellow should have been a red. Just have some consistency, right? João Gomez has gone flying in, not touched the ball, way above the ankle, studs are showing, red card, right? In my opinion. So I think we got off quite lucky with a second yellow. The Arsenal one, I've tripped plenty of players up on a football pitch. You don't trip a player up by going studs up.
No.
That's not what you do. You flick the ankle. I could teach him a thing or two about how to trip someone up. You just flick the ankle. I mean, Doc isn't the fastest runner, but he'll fall over. And he's gone in with his studs. He's made the decision, made the ref make a decision on it. Because it's just a blatant yellow card in any other situation. Now, whether I don't think it's a red card, but I think that it's stupid from the player to make that much of a reckless challenge. And I think if the ref gave a yellow in real time, VAR aren't overturning it. And the ref gave a red, VAR aren't overturning it either. I think there's just VAR is meant to come in and solve or help the ref make these decisions more objective. But all of a sudden, it's actually just making them more subjective. And I mean, we could rant on for hours about this, but it's just frustrating watch, because as a fan, it's almost like there's never a final decision on it, because now they've gone and overturned it and now the debates are still going on and it's just never ending. Whereas before, I was speaking to my mate after football today about it. Before you go to a game, the ref would make a decision and you'd think it's wrong because you've seen it with your own eyes. Subjective, right? But he's made a decision, that's it. Final whistle's gone. Walking home, on the bus, whatever, you're having a chat and you're going, I think that's a poor decision. The other mate in the bus is going, I don't think it is. Anyway, you chat it out. Next morning, it's gone. It's done. Whatever it is, it's done. You move on. And there was a stat that the season before VAR came in, refs got 97% of decisions right. Now, I don't know what the stats are this season or the seasons that VAR has been in, but the big decisions, feels as though they're getting them wrong. The amount that have gone against us as well. And it feels as though it's more than 3%. I don't know that for a fact, but it just feels as though it's something every single week. So, yeah, rant over, but that's my thoughts.
It is funny though. I've seen the amount of, some really big names in football coming out going, oh, it's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And it's like, did you not see the 15 odd calls that we had last year with VAR and everything? Like, come on, guys.
They need to get a grip. Honestly, these, some of the talk sport and other, just get a grip. Like, come on. Worst decision you've ever seen, just because you've got a soft spot for Arsenal. I mean, fantastic. Yeah, they probably deserve the win, whatever. But yeah, that really grinds me.
Yeah. So I didn't want to. I'm sorry to bring it down, but it's just there's some stuff that went on in that game that was just bugging me, and because of everything that's gone on, there's so many bits that are just missed in the flurry of it all. I know we're running a little long, but did you want to? So hang on, wait, refresh my brain, because that was a lot. We're playing Villa this weekend. Huge derby. And I mean, we've got probably going to have no Larson. We haven't actually had it confirmed yet how long he's going to be out for. So, but I would imagine he's definitely not playing this weekend, given the way he came off last Saturday, because he was struggling before he sat down for a while, because they were getting a sub ready before that. He knew, and he played on, and he's looked like he's been running on fumes a bit anyway. So I'd imagine no Larson, no Gomez, because he's going to be suspended for the game. So there's going to be some changes. Who do you think is going to come in? We've already touched on Hwang, at least up front, I would imagine. I prefer to see Guedes or Gedge, to be honest, probably up front.
Yeah, I think you have to change the system. I think that's the hardest call he's going to have. I think he probably won't. I think he'll probably stick to the back five, 2 pivots, because that's the way he likes it, and then your traditional number 9, but it will just be Guedes instead. I think to make it make more sense, you probably have to maybe go for a 3-man midfield just to compensate for the Tommy Doyle lack of physicality, and then have your Cunha and Guedes as a front 2 who can kind of play off each other. But I don't think he's going to go for that. I think he'll play Hwang, Cunha and Guedes, and then he'll play Andre and Tommy Doyle as 2 pivots. I think that's what he's going to go for. But I don't think that would be the right approach. I think against Villa, we should have a bit of, we're at home, under the lights at Molineux. We need a performance that's going to be, let's go at them, let's create stuff, let's see what we can do here. Because genuinely at this moment in time, we're losing every week. So what have we got to lose? Well, football games, but let's try and just have a go. And I think the best way of doing that is having Cunha and Guedes closer together up top, rather than isolating Guedes and Hwang. I think they'd just be toast against Villa's defence.
Yeah, I have to say, because I think you're right, I don't think he'll change. He seems set in his formation of what he wants to do, and hence he just wants to buy players now that fit that formation. On the one hand, I'm like, okay, I get that you've got this vision. On the other hand, we're in a scrap, and I need you to make the best use of the players we've got. So sometimes you might have to tweak that. But therefore, I think that, he's stuck as he is. I have to say, given that we've seen way more of Bellegarde than Doyle and Vitor Pereira, I think you're going to see Bellegarde alongside alongside Andre in midfield. And you're shaking your head, Nathan, and some people out there are shaking their heads. And I'm not saying I want it. I'm just saying I think that's what you'll see.
I think, you know, whoever's listening to this on the way into work this morning, and you've just heard Chris say that, and it may have made you, you know, feel a certain way about your day coming up, please don't, you know. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe no Bellegarde will play, but gosh,
You spoke about
I really hope.
physicality. You can argue
Yeah,
that he
but
is more physical than Doyle, and
I would agree
he's
with you.
quicker.
And he's quicker. Now, we haven't come on to the point where the two left feet come in.
And at that moment where he almost gave himself an injury as he ran the ball out to the touchline. I don't even know what he was doing.
I mean, he tries hard. He tries hard, and I have to
does.
say, you can't fault the effort that he puts in and that side of things. So, you know, all jokes aside, yeah, there's that, but we need more quality from him.
We do. And as I say, I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying that's what I think you'll see. That's what I think you'll see. But yeah, I don't. I'm gasping at the mic because honestly, I'm really concerned about what we're going to see this weekend. I am, Nathan, and I'm really not expecting much. And we haven't even touched on one of the pivotal questions I wanted to ask you going into this, because obviously there's been a lot of debate around Cunha, and yeah, he'll play surely. But my question was going to be, firstly, is he still here at the end of this window?
I hope so. I think, you know, I follow his Instagram fairly closely, and he posted it was a 1 year throwback to when we beat the Baggies 2-0 at their place. So he was posting about that. I thought that's quite nice, and it's also a good sign. You know, he's not just posting about the fact that he's the best performing Brazilian in the league and all this sort of stuff.
And his missus is pregnant. Congratulations.
And his missus is pregnant. There we go. So I think he will be with us. I just hope he stops being grumpy and returns back to just trying to enjoy his football. Because at the minute, his attitude absolutely stinks. His body language is awful. And let's be real, his performances in the last couple of games have stunk as well.
Yeah.
So he needs to remind himself that if you don't, you can't just rock up, you know, and not put effort in and get something out of it in the Prem. It's just not the level that he's at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not that much of a superstar yet to be in that position. So he still needs to put the work in.
He does. It's been frustrating because you just want him to. All you want is to see players give 110% when they put the shirt on, even when, you know. Yeah, I get that we're in a losing streak, but you just want to see them make the effort, and we know what he can do, which is why people get on his back, and it's more frustrating, especially with all the talk going on, because you know that he's a difference maker, and fair enough, he'll drift in and out of games because he's always done that. And he's that kind of player that both managers have spoken about his work off the ball, because that's not necessarily his forte, but that's not what you put him on the pitch for. You put him on the pitch for the moments of magic he can create. Fair enough, he's not going to do it the whole game, but even when he was in and out of games before, he was at least looking in it, like morally, in terms of optimism and energy and everything. And at the moment, it just isn't quite there, and it seems to have affected every part of his game, because for me, as I mentioned, his passing looks wayward. Like some of the balls he's played miles away from people, and the one he tried to pin on Huang for not making a particular run or something, but it was just a terrible pass. I don't know if you remember that moment. And he's like waving his arms at Huang like it was all his fault. And I'm sorry, people give Huang a lot of flack, and I feel like I defend him sometimes because I'm sick of the amount of flack he gets, and I don't think he needs Cunha adding to it for the crowd when it was just Cunha playing a bad ball.
No. Cunha's role, I mean, you mentioned in a team, you know, he got that moment of magic, but he has the ability to lift the spirit. He has the ability to change the mood in the whole stadium. You know, his performance against Man United was absolutely, you know, out of this world. But he's not doing the basics. Last couple of games, he's not doing the basics of, we need, out of all the players we want on the ball in our squad, Cunha's the one we want on the ball. We need him showing for it. As you said, in previous games, he's showing for it. He's dropping deep. He's doing what he needs to do to be involved in the game. But the last couple of games, he's not been involved at all. And he's not taking the initiative to get involved. like he used to, which is where it's worrying. And then, as you said, when he does get on the ball after the rest of the team have worked so hard defensively to give him an opportunity on the ball, he's then not had the quality that we expect him to have. So last two performances, I've been really unimpressed.
Yeah, because we can't carry anyone right now. I mean, you can't carry anyone in the Premier League anyway. But even we're in this situation where every minute, every point matters, and we just can't carry people who don't want to be on the pitch or can't are not up for it. Anyway, all right, we've run pretty long already by our standards. Is there anything we didn't touch on today, Nathan, that you wanted to touch on? I mean, we'll probably do another episode this week before the Villa game to cover any more transfer news and predictions for the weekend. I'm just going to say I'm not optimistic at this point.
I've got nothing else to say. I feel like anything else I'll say may end up, down a rabbit hole of negative chat. But I'd love to hear the positive outro. That is one that I'm really looking forward to.
Oh my gosh, Nathan! I don't know if I've got it in me, but I will say. All right, well, let's round up by saying thank you everyone who made it this far. If you put it with our waffle and our moaning and all of that, we commiserate with you because it's tough times out there. But thank you. If you did enjoy it, please tell your friends. Hit the subscribe button, all that jazz that people tell you to do. You know how to do it. Just do the thing. Push the button. Yeah. And if you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone. Just quietly walk off into the distance. And whichever way it is, and however you're feeling about everything that's going on in the world right now, and the state of Wolverhampton Wanderers, just remember, everyone, that out of darkness cometh light.
See you later.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.